welcome to the stage Jason, our SVP of Client Development at Zeta, Jenny Hogan from Bread Financial, and Jay Roth, former Chief Marketing Officer. They're here today to talk about digital amplification, the new approach to omnichannel marketing.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to everyone tuning in live. Our topic today, digital amplification, omnichannel marketing. We've got some awesome speakers. So without further ado, let's get to that. Jenny and Jay, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome. So for the context of everybody in the room and everyone that's tuning in virtually, just let's give a little bit of your background, your professional arc, some of the brands you've helped steward, as well as some of the challenges you've had to share down as a marketer. So, Jenny, would you like to get us started?
Sure. So I'm about a year in working at Bread Financial, which is a tech-forward payment, lending, and savings company. I'm very proud to work with a very talented organization full of collaborative, talented individuals. So at Bread Financial, I head up our direct-to-consumer marketing business on the acquisition side for our savings and our loan, as well as our credit card marketing, as well as the channel marketing and innovation side of the house, which supports many partners like Victoria's Secret and Ulta and NFL. Prior to joining Bread Financial, I had been at Chase and I had crossed paths with Jay, working on building the internal brand agency, working on credit card marketing, and then working from an innovation standpoint across the lines of business to help optimize our digital channels across the ecosystem. So great company as well to work with over the years.
And hi everybody, I'm Jay Roth, and I've been in marketing now for about 30 years. A big part of that was with JPMorganChase, and it's great to be back here in New York and see all the Chase branches on just about every street corner. There's about 1,000 of them here in the city. When I was working for Chase, I was the SVP in charge of customer acquisition, retention, and engagement. So if you think about that, my goal was to make sure those branches were busy and acquiring as many new customers, profitable new customers as we could. After that, I totally changed industries, went to the television world. I was the chief marketing officer for Dish Network, which here in New York, probably not real popular, being a satellite technology company. But we had a sister brand, which was Sling TV, and which is one of the very first streaming platforms. And I found out from many people here today is a very popular product here in New York City. Then most recently, I was at Consumer Cellular, which is a kind of a cell phone that's dedicated to senior citizens and a very targeted market. One thing that all those companies have kind of in common was finding the right customer. And you didn't really want to acquire every single customer because not everyone will be profitable. You had to be very smart about who you're going to target ultimately, because that's how you're going to drive the real value for the company.
Three completely different audiences, objectives. This is quite the spectrum of marketing challenges that you faced, right?
Yeah, it was. But the science behind it was almost the exact same.
It all comes down to data and math, huh?
Yep, it's all about data.
All right, so omnichannel marketing, industry buzzword, the modern marketer's best friend. Where is it on the spectrum? Something in between? How important is that to achieving the goals that you're tasked with?
Oh, where to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, I love omnichannel marketing. That's probably why I'm on this panel. So when I think of omnichannel marketing, ultimately it's being in front of the right customer at the right time with the right offer. That's what it is. And when you think about really good marketing, it's just that simple. You know, right product, right customer, right time. And when you think of bad marketing, and we have all seen it, it's essentially you're targeting the wrong customer, and you got the wrong product, and it's the wrong time. And you look at the response rates, that we run in many of our marketing campaigns, let's face it, they're not 100% response rates. We are definitely targeting many times the wrong customer with the wrong product and unfortunately at the wrong time. So when I think of omni-channel marketing and figuring out how to actually approach the customer the right way, I constantly think of that. Do we have the right content? Do we have the right offer? Is this the right time to approach that customer? I think a lot about the purchase funnel. That is something that is fundamental to marketing. Omnichannel marketing is probably makes that the pull through in the purchase funnel far simpler if you have things set up properly. It's not easy. Those of us that have done it realize how difficult it is to set it up because you have to have the data. First party data especially. You got to be able to have the analytics and all the data science behind it, of course, to actually figure out, is this the right customer that you want to acquire? On top of that, let's face it, you got to have the customer journeys. Customer journeys take a ton of time and effort to figure out what is the right creative, the right content, the right curation. There's a lot to it, of course. But if it's done right, it will actually drive higher response rates. And instead of it being a purchase funnel, it could be like a purchase pipeline. That'd be my goal.
I think the one thing that most people forget is the fact that we've got to provide value back to the customer, right? So it's about the data, it's about the segmentation, it's about connecting those journeys together, but it's what are we bringing to the table to that customer, and are we providing value to them in that communication? A lot of times folks want to just keep pushing communications, not thinking about their latest experience with that company. Do they have a negative or positive experience? What was, we think of it as the next action of something that we want to promote, but it's also how do we show the value in what we're trying to deliver to them and the opportunity. I think from a buzzword perspective, yes, everybody loves the word omnichannel marketing. I mean, it really means reaching out to our customers and engaging with them with content based upon where they're consuming that content, right? So I'm amazed to say that now TikTok is a really hip place from a marketing standpoint, from a financial company to marketing. That's not new, right? But there's a lot of engagement and a lot of really good ability to leverage those types of platforms, social platforms, to connect with.
Yeah. And Jenny, you're dealing a lot with financial products. Financial products typically is not an impulse buy. Right? There's a lot of research, a lot of understanding, is this the right fit for me? And so you need to have the content curated. You have to have the constant contact with the customer. When I was at Dish is actually, it's kind of an unusual company because the cost to acquire a customer is unbelievably expensive. I think it's reported it's around $850 for every new customer. It's a huge subscriber acquisition cost. The biggest piece of that is the rolling of the truck, the van, to go to somebody's house, actually install a dish. So why is that so important to a marketer? We got to make sure we're bringing in the right customer. And if we're bringing in a customer that's going to churn quickly, you're actually not losing customers only, you're losing profit. And you're actually incurring a loss for the company. So one of the things that we learned is when it comes to targeting the right customer, build a funnel so that you get the right customers all the way through and have the right curation of content so that you can ultimately see a higher conversion rate of those customers.
I think one thing that gets missed a lot is just the tremendous amount of complexity. Orchestrating all this data and content and targeting out to consumers. It's a massive undertaking to kind of platform and get that communication out to consumers in all the different venues and arenas that they work with. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's change topics a bit here. Not everybody bats 1,000. Everybody has good days and bad days, including marketers, right? So talk to us about some of the pitfalls, lessons you've learned the hard way, school of hard knocks, as you've tried to execute this vision for omnichannel marketing.
I'll start with one.
Okay, I have a great, unfortunately, a great bad example.
I think some of the pitfalls is that, just bringing up a point that you mentioned earlier, is the fact that it takes, let's say anywhere from 11 to 18 touches to be able to convince someone to buy or apply for a product, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so that consideration, that awareness, that final conversion, you have to get them through the funnel and keep them interested, again, provide that value. So I just want to bring that up. But one of the pitfalls is just not understanding that it takes that time. Like, you've got to build that awareness and that consideration. Just because you put it out there doesn't mean instantly we're going to get, 1 million accounts, if you will.
It's a foundation you have to build on. You got to start from there, and then the advertising has more resonance with that in place.
Yeah, I had a pretty good pitfall when I was at Chase, and as I mentioned, we have 1,000 Chase branches here in the city, and we ran this campaign, and it worked perfectly. And let me kind of explain the formula. We were targeting the right customer, and it was all based on the customer's lifetime value. We had the right offer, generated a response rate even better than what we had expected. And we had it all communicated so the customer absolutely wanted it. They wanted it. The thing we missed was the origination process, that call to action. If you're going to do good omnichannel marketing, let the customer decide where they want to go, right? Pitfall that we had was, with Chase being very omni-channel, we had this special offer only available online or through a call center. The thing that we completely screwed up is we have bankers that have phenomenal relationships with their customers. And those bankers heard very quickly when these customers would say, I got this offer, and I'm getting it in multiple communications, I want it, but it says I gotta go to the website. You're my banker, you're my friend, you're my buddy, you're the one who tells me when I'm gonna get good deals, right? And we missed it. So from then on, we adopted a phrase, which is, we'll never put a banker in harm's way. We'll never put a banker in harm's way. So we adopted the omni-channel, making sure all the fulfillment of the offers could be available through any of the call to actions, so call, click, or come in. It was really eye-opening how you can get the ball, if you're like a football analogy, you can get all the way to the 1-yard line and absolutely fumble it there. And of course, that's not what you want to do.
Best laid plans of man and marketers.
Right?
So the best laid plans of man and marketers.
Right, exactly.
All right. Metrics, KPIs, a lot of them out there. A lot of them have been around for decades. What are the ones that matter? What are the ones you have to deal with? What do you pay attention to, and what can you ignore?
I'll start off. Okay, when it comes to especially omni-channel marketing, by far the most important thing that I've learned over time, it's ROI, period. Now, a lot goes into that, and it's unbelievably difficult to get all the infrastructure set up correctly. You need a lot of partnership with finance, but it all comes down to calculating the customer lifetime value. And what I mean by that is it's just not the purchase of one product, but it's actually the value of the entire customer relationship over time. And all the companies that I mentioned that I work for, it's actually a reoccurring revenue type of structure. So bringing a new household sometimes will be a 5, 10, 15-year relationship. You got to understand all those drivers. So for the metrics that I find so important, it's ultimately getting the customer lifetime value, modeling that, having the vintage analysis to understand, are they actually following the path that you'd expected from all the customers that you're acquiring, and then what is the cost to originate? And dividing those two numbers together, you can get an ROI.
It's so interesting how the role of marketing has changed. It used to be the brand thesis where companies would ask the marketers to spend money to build the brand, and it's kind of yielded way to the investment thesis where the companies are asking marketers to spend money to drive top-line revenue or architect financial results. So as the role changes, then obviously the ecosystem does as well, but the skill set, data, analysis, incrementality, lifetime value, these are new tools of the trade for the investment thesis brand of marketers out there.
And I think within the channel mix, right, it's important to understand the objectives of what you're trying to achieve by that channel, right? The holy grail is everyone wants to know, I played the commercial 10 times, and so that equaled 1,000 accounts, right? It doesn't necessarily work that way. It's an ecosystem. So based upon the objective or the channel and sort of the engagement with it, I think establishing what your core benchmarks are based upon industry standards is helpful, but also setting some standards from a test and control standpoint of like being able to say, okay, for our company or for this particular product, this is our baseline. How can we improve it from here, right? Or what's low performing and how do we optimize accordingly?
So when you started your journey as a marketer, did you think you'd end up as a data expert and an analytics expert and a mathematician along the way?
No. My mother was a math teacher.
That's so funny. Yeah,
She would be proud if I said that.
Would you just want to go back to marketing one day?
when I was in college, I thought marketing was essentially making sure you can pick the right color. It should be yellow, red, blue. Of course, it's totally different. And what I think is so fun about marketing is that if you do it right, you can track it. And I grew up playing a lot of sports, and it's so fun to actually be able to move all the right dials, and you start to see points go up on the board, right? And that's what I find so fun about marketing is the actions that you do and your team does is actually, creating the sales, creating the relationships that you need.
Well, they say love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. It sounds like you're a B.A. Baracus or Hannibal fan of A-Team.
No doubt. So now, here we are, precipice of 2023. A lot of us are involved in planning for next year. A lot of uncertainty. Obviously, we heard from the CNBC folks. So how do you think when you're looking around the corner for next year? How do you think about next year? And how do you think about marketing in those uncertain times? Do you pump the brake? Do you put the foot on the accelerator? How do you think about that? Jenny?
I would say to continue to market, right? Because we still have to get that awareness, that
Yes,
consideration.
please continue to market. Yes, I think that's the smartest thing I've heard all day right there.
Like there is a tendency to want to pull back, but then you're losing progress, right? In the sense of like that reach or overall customer engagement that you're looking for. So yes, there might be some need for obviously some efficiency in the way that folks are buying or purchasing their marketing channel mix, but I think it's important to continue to invest from a company standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. But there's like a short-term answer and a long-term answer. One of the long-term answers is everybody who's in marketing should have been preparing for this 5 years ago. And what I mean by that is you gotta run the marketing campaign so you understand how they're working, because eventually it's going to be under a microscope. And of course, it's going to be under a microscope over the next year or so. And a lot of panelists have talked about that in a recession, what's going to happen with marketing, what's the relationship between the chief marketing officer and the CFO. And the best way to handle that is really what's happened over the last couple of years. Does the CFO, does the business see marketing as an engine of growth or as a cost center, right? And of course, if you can set it up so that in good times, the question is, well, what would we do if we gave you another $5 million? What would you do with it, right? And you could prove the value on the way up so that when you're going to come down, you can say, okay, this is what we should cut. This is how we're going to prioritize our investment. And the thing that will happen, it seems to happen at the end of the year with a lot of CFOs, is they'll start to cut marketing. But of course, if you have enough kind of credibility that's been built, that conversation will be more difficult for a CFO because they know that's what's actually driving a lot of the scale. So, a friend just gave me a quote, which I just absolutely love. You might want to write this down. It's a Henry Ford quote, and it is, "A man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time."
I love that.
So
I'm going to put that on my LinkedIn profile now, I guess. Yeah, it's really interesting, as you enter times of uncertainty, the brands and the companies that are prepared, and by prepare, I mean they understand cause and effect, right? They have the data piping in, they have the analytical rigor, and there's always an element of uncertainty, but when you have a good understanding of cause and effect, right, then those uncertain times, can turn to your advantage as well. You can really spend money against it and drive your business and share forward.
that's right. Yeah, if you can get marketing so it's not considered a cost center, but instead the growth engine, then that conversation is a lot easier. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of contributions from finance, from IT, from partners, like Zeta and others, to constantly figure out attribution and what are we really getting for the investment. If you don't have that, it's a really hard conversation when people start asking questions about pulling back on marketing spend.
Any final thoughts, Jenny?
I think he's absolutely spot on, of course. It is being able to be accountable and be able to show with attribution and with all the data that the channel or the marketing effort of the campaign actually performed the way that we expected, right? To be able to continue that program or that strategy moving forward. I'm actually usually amazed when different folks come to me and don't even know their campaign performance. Like, let's continue to do this going into next year, but do we actually know whether it worked or performed, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Jay, any final thoughts?
Yeah, when I think about omni-channel marketing, there's a lot when it comes to acquisition. There's a lot when it comes to retention, and I don't think people talk about retention enough when it comes to omni-channel marketing. And talking about recession and who do you want to make sure that you are attracting? Well, don't forget, you got to also save the profitable customers that you have right now. And what's so important is with omni-channel marketing and the constant communication, it kind of answers this question that you hear in the marketing world, which is, would you rather be marketing the lowest priced product, or would you rather be marketing the highest quality product? And the answer, I think, is the person who's going to win the sale typically is the person who's actually talking to the customer. They can overcome a lot, but if they have the relationship, if they have the communication, if they have the right content, the right channels into the customer, there's a much better chance that that company is actually going to make the sale. So if you're not talking to your customers, somebody else probably is. So as you think about omni-channel marketing, think about not just acquiring, but also retaining and making sure that you're constantly proving to them that you're adding value with the right recommendations, you're solving problems for them, and ultimately, they shouldn't be hopefully shopping with a competitor.
Yeah, you're acknowledging the relationship, again, building that value and building that trust, because it is a choice, right? So it's that cadence of conversation and all of those messages and being prepared with those across channels is just as important to your point. Not only just to cross-sell maybe sub-products, but also from a longer lifetime value perspective.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's a wrap for this session on Omni Marketing. I'd like to thank everyone for attending, thank everyone online, and that's a wrap from New York. Thank you.
Thank you.